This is for the leaders, the visionaries, the hope bringers, kindness instigators. This is your place to get loved, poured into, activated, and inspired. Well, good morning. Welcome to Fireside Friday, September 26th. It's still, we are moving right through this year, huh? Just had the fall equinox this week, which I'm looking forward to. Fall's my favorite season. I like when we start to cool down. I like breeze, but also like cozy. That's where I start to, we've got the weather outside that feels also like we're releasing. I've been releasing a lot this week energetically. Um, Before I really dive into what we're going to talk about today, I would love for wherever you are, wherever you're listening, if you're here in the Zoom room or if you're listening to the replay, if you just close your eyes if you're able, uh, and just take some breath. It doesn't have to exist in any pattern, but just be with your breathing just for a minute, because again, there's a lot still going on. And so if we can just be with our breath, mm, really just grounding yourself into this present moment, beyond things that may be pressing in on you. Again, questions you might have, things that might be swirling for you. They can all wait. They'll be there for you right now in these moments. I'm asking for you to receive what is meant for you. Just stay there with that breath. Just tuning in, quieting down, stilling. As we lean into just being present with what is, no matter what it is that you're holding today, if you've been releasing a lot like me, if fall is maybe turning out to the beginning to see where we may be holding things that it's time to let go of. Today, I've been thinking a lot about today's message, and there have been a lot of different components that have kind of been flooding my senses. Um, the first thing I want to camp out around is that I just watched uh, K-pop Demon Hunters this week, maybe last week, in the last 2 weeks. I've watched it. It's on Netflix. It's animated. And I had seen a lot of people, a lot of adults in my life proclaiming a lot of love for this, on Facebook and things like that. And it never really struck resonance with me. But I had a cousin who texted me and she was like, I just think that you'll like it. I think that you would really, really like it. I was like, well, I'll put it on a list. And so I was looking for something to watch the other day. And again, it came not too long after. There's just something I was like, I don't know. Just doesn't seem, I don't even really like the title. There wasn't anything that I'm like, yeah, that is something that I want to spend time doing. So I gave it what Serge and I do around here, the 10-minute test, where it's like we watch 10 minutes of something and see if we want to continue with it or not. And so I started watching it. And at first I was like, I don't know, it's kind of hokey, it's whatever. And I don't remember where it started to change for me. I mean, it was shortly, it was within the 10-minute test. I do like the premise and the message. But one of the things that the main characters are there to do is to create something called the Hunmun. And they're called Huntrix. They're a band. There's three female vocalists who, so it's like, they're a K-pop band. And one of the ways that they are in the world fighting demons is through their voice. And so they create lyrics and music that is supposed to activate harmony, love, and peace. And as they sing in unison, that activates things around us. And what I loved about seeing it so visually, and they deal a lot with patterns and ancestry and also frequency. Frequency. So even thinking about what sound actually is, how we're all interconnected, how when we listen to things, right? If I want to calm down, I'm probably not going to pick, um, I don't know, like Linkin Park, for example, if you're familiar, they're more rock, hard rock. I think that would be the vein. Alternative rock. I don't know what that genre actually is. Um, but if I'm going to, want something that's going to help me sleep, I'm probably not picking K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack, which is more poppy and bubbly. And there's a reason for that. And I think, again, I slowed down our breath at the beginning of this call, thinking about slowing down and even taking some of the tenets of how our world is structured and just going back a little bit and thinking about how we have organized information. I think it was Joe Dispenza, I wrote this down, but all of life uses information to organize itself into form. Without information, life cannot give birth to anything new. I'm going to say it again. All of life uses information to organize itself into form. Without information, life cannot give birth to anything new. Now, I don't know if Joe Dispenza actually said that, but he used it in a slide in a presentation that I was watching as I was preparing for today. I really like Joe Dispenza and his teaching. I think that he breaks down a lot of things in quantum physics and the way that we are all connected in ways that make sense to me. There are other teachers, I'm sure, who exist out there who can bring more of that into focus. But what I think it's really helpful to remember, and if you think about even water, if I throw a rock into water, it is going to ripple. It is because that matter of the water is denser. I can see the effect that that rock dropping into the water is making a pattern with. And all sound, all frequency, those vibrations that happen, right, are things that get metabolized into our bodies, usually coming in through the ear. We could also see, that's where sight, all of our senses come into play into interpreting the information that exists around us. But I've been so struck in the last couple years by moving beyond those compartments. So, like if we think about words, we have words that are nouns, person, place, or thing. But what if we, for me, something that has transformed my view, even thinking about, well, what if it's not a person, place, or thing, but what if it just is? What if something just is? We don't have to give it a label. The same thing, too. Like if I took all of your senses away from you, you couldn't smell, you couldn't taste, you couldn't see, you couldn't hear. Well, would you still be a living entity? Yeah, you'd just be consciousness, right? Like you're experiencing yourself. Like if we remove all of those things, I don't want to remove all of them, but my point is that there is something that exists beyond the way that we separate information. And yet, we still use a lot of information around us through those senses, through our own lived experiences, through the messages that we've received in order to organize our life, to understand our life, to make sense of our life. And one of the things that I think, again, I keep bringing us back to because I feel so compelled to almost drench us with is the ability for us to literally create the reality that we crave. And it's more important now than ever, right now, especially with the chaotic feeling of the energy, right, that is pulsing around us because we are all interconnected. Again, if we were all underwater, it would be easier to understand that we're all not, I mean, maybe not easier to understand. Me visually thinking about everything interconnecting, speaking, and being entangled with one another, just like trees. Trees root down into the earth and their roots touch one another. These roots are systems of information. The trees pass information between their roots and sometimes even they'll send like more of their energy or healing to a specific tree that may be struggling. They root down together and they're interconnected. And the same is true for us. So, first and foremost, remembering too that that intense energy that you may be feeling is not only belonging to you, it's belonging to the collective, but also remembering, knowing that at least for me, what I have to keep coming back to in these moments is where am I placing my attention? Because where our attention goes, energy flows, right? Where our attention goes, energy flows. And I want us to keep coming back to the truth that we are creators of our reality that we live inside of. We are active, living, breathing invitations into more. If you're in this space, you yearn for more holistic solutions to the problems that we see. You have ideas inside of you that you might feel a little kooky about, or it might look a little different. And especially as women, we need that leadership that you have as a woman, because you are a woman, to come to the forefront. The ways that you crave for parental leave to look in your workplace, for businesses that you run, whatever that looks like, because there are so many ideas. Again, we're taking information around us, often going, well, what is possible because of what I can see or what I've been told? No, no more. Those are interesting ways to receive some information, and sometimes they are valuable if we're going to develop a strategy. But I think for us as visionaries, as hope bringers, as light bringers, as people who want to instigate new things, that will require that we actually pay attention to the cravings that we have for what we want to bring, how we want to bring them, and giving that space and time to occur, to believe that the things on our heart are not only meant for us to usher in, but that the world needs them too. I saw a quote this week. I've got a slide for you because I just wanted, like, I'm like, this is such a profound um, like statement because it's so true. Um, it came from an article. She wrote a Substack. Her name is sorry, my little window, if I get it up, Elisa Valdez Rodriguez. And she wrote about the Mexican president. I don't know what her name is, first female Mexican president, initiated, or she, every year they celebrate Mexicans' Independence Day. I think that's what it was. And every year they do that, which has been like 2,000 years, a long time. They've been having this ritual of celebrating that. And every single time a president is on the stage who's been male, he says Mexicanos, right? Which is the plural male masculine form of that word. Because in language, right, in Spanish, if you don't know, that if there's going to be if it's a group of people, they always default to the masculine interpretation of that word. So they're going to use the masculine form of it. And so what she was pointing out is that this female president started her celebration of this, making her mark by saying and beginning with Mexicanas and Mexicanos. When I was telling Serge about this, he didn't feel like that was a very big deal. But to me, it felt like a massive deal because our language, the ideas we live inside of, are so, so powerful. And to have a person of influence and power, coming and speaking possibility is so, so, so important because it activates things in us. It ignites possibility for us. It instigates us. And so, in this article that the woman was writing about this president in her speech, what she said was, a better world isn't naive, it's overdue. A better world isn't naive, it's overdue. What you are craving isn't naive. It's not fantasy or like something that for me constantly, I feel like I'm told by well-meaning people who do love me and Serge himself that I live inside of a fantasy reality and around things that I want more peace, I want more love. But here's what I think again that we have to understand is that we will be misunderstood by those who are sinking into the frequency of cynicism, of the powers that be, at least in the Western world. I think we have a lot of programming around us that is dividing us, that is showing us where we can't. And what I want you to be doing is to be plugging into places where you believe and are told you can. It is now more vital than ever that we at home, in our leadership, in our desires to bring more, will believe that that's possible. We have to continue believing that's possible. And I think it was Margaret Mead, and I've referenced this quote before, but it's something like never underestimate what a small group can do, because they're the only groups that have changed anything. That's how change begins. Change begins at the inception of this instigation in our spirit that goes, I see what you're saying, but there must be more. Perhaps there's more. Perhaps there is something more. Part of that is true, but it doesn't feel complete. And so I think, again, I'm working on this book that I'm writing. A Better World isn't naive, it's overdue. I'm going to remove our screen, but I think it's so powerful. I brought it back one more time. I'm working on writing this book. And one of the things that has been surprising, even though I'm no stranger to writing, but I've never really stuck long term with one project. And what it's demanding from me is to instigate those questions, letting something fall out and know in my spirit, part of this is correct or how I want it to be captured. But there's something else there that I feel like is important. I'll come back. I'll know. I'll have what I need. And that's a different kind of moving with some of those concepts. At least I don't really feel like that was modeled for me of I know, but we're letting things work itself out. And I'll know more when I know more. More of that contemplative type of existence where we're not expecting things to be done and finished tomorrow, taking less pressure off of a specific projected outcome and instead being a relationship with what is that's occurring and allowing. Um, and one of the things too that I wanted to share today, which I think illustrates literally and beautifully figuratively this concept of more, of an invitation into believing more, of striving for more. But and when I say more, I mean possibility. I mean wonder. I mean awe. I mean more that's available to us in the moment, even when we step outside and notice how the light hits uh, color, like how it changes from the morning light to the afternoon to the evening, noticing the patterns on a duck's back. Like if you ever really look at the patterns in the natural world around you, it is astounding to notice and behold, there was so much intention. And we choose our lives each and every day with intention. A lot of times, too, I think what has been modeled for us has been a lot of reacting to life instead of responding to life. And when we're reacting, we're just we're just rolling with. When we're responding, at least to me, what that feels like more is slowing down and starting to recognize, how do I feel in this moment? What am I craving in this moment? what is missing? What am I craving that feels like it's missing? I was having a conversation last night with a friend, and what she was describing to me was so interesting. She was talking about wanting a place where her therapy clients could come, and she could have like a meditation room. Basically, she wants a space that could be multifunctional for multi purposes of multi levels of healing. And I was thinking as she was talking, I was like, I've craved something like this too, around like having a retreat center or something similar, where we can bring in different dynamics of just allowance of space and presence to be, but setting it apart with that intention of being that way. And what struck me, I was like, we're trying to create church in the way that we crave it to be brought forward. To me, that was just a really interesting, because again, as I'm breaking apart and been camping out around like some of the grief I'm releasing of what I thought was, and then also instigating, well, what again would I want that to look like? What am I calling into existence? What kind of model am I working to try and create? And that has taken some slowing down, some analyzing, um, and some being with. And I got a little bit off coming back to the illustration. So I love the quote, but the illustration, I think, again, of what we can be invited into more possibility is when we share our gifts, our this feels a little different, but I wanna instigate by sharing this art or sharing this program, or doing business in a way that I feel like honors the rhythm of my employees, which might mean less work. It might be less structured time and more intentional time for them to be with their families, or more time and space within your business organization to even cultivate and help people inside your organization know themselves better. Again, there are so many ways that I think that we stop short because we go, oh, it's going to cost too much. I don't have the bandwidth for that. And some of those things are true. But I think often what we do is we start looking at, again, that information that's around us and almost shutting down. It feels overwhelming. It feels like we're going to be bound up in that red tape. But like, what if we just took it a step further? What if maybe the red tape wouldn't even be there? Then what could it look like? What if we started knocking down some of these ideas about ways that things have been done and instead get to really immerse ourselves in, well, how could it be done? How would I crave it to look in the world? And maybe perhaps that craving of mine, that ache to bring something, the ache I have for it, is meant to live outside of me. I came across an artist this week. Her name's Ashley Miller, and she's still doing a lot of her art um, as a side hustle. It is not her main thing, but I saw this shared in like a Facebook group, and I love it. And I actually reached out to her about it, but I want to show it to you first before I even start unpacking more of it. So if you are in a place too where you can see this, and I don't even think I have the whole thing on the screen because it is very tall. This image, it's called No Such Thing as Flightless Birds. And in the image, you've got all different kinds of birds, birds of prey, uh, birds that can fly, that we know that can fly, with strings attached to those that they're carrying. So we've got like maybe an emu, a penguin. There's some smaller hummingbirds down below, but basically this group of birds in phantasmal color is carrying the group together. And I love the title too. No such thing as flightless birds. No such thing as flightless birds. This took her about 8 months to do, and it's also colored pencil. But I'm gonna zoom in. So if you're watching this, I think it'll pick up. Like, I mean, the detail is incredible. I just really want us to really appreciate like the artistry of what happened here. And birds for me over the last couple years have been really important. So I reached out to Ashley. I sent her a little voice note through Facebook. I didn't know if she would respond because I wanted to just get a little more information from her if she was willing to share around maybe what instigated it, why this. Um, and let me get the picture of her. I'm going to read to you what she shared with me, but I want to also be able to show you the scale of this work because seeing it, you know, is hard to grasp. But this is Ashley, the artist, with her work. And so I mean, this thing's got to be like, I don't know, 9 or 10 feet tall. I don't know what the specs are, but it's a big piece of work. Um, and so I asked her again, what led you to create this? And she said, during particularly stressful or difficult times, two things that have often helped me have been drawing and long walks and time spent outside with my camera. On many of my walks, what I've loved photographing the most and learning more about have been birds. I wanted to combine these two hobbies that have helped me through many parts of my life into a lighthearted piece that hopefully brings some joy to the viewer. No such thing as flightless birds is a colored pencil drawing about coming together to support each other in times of need, using our strengths to help others when we can, and allowing others to help support us in reaching out our goals and aspiration. Took me about 8 months to complete, working here and there after work. I think the past several years, so many people have been split on so many different topics, and tensions have continually been high that I really wanted to create something a little more positive and hopeful to look at. Drawing always helps with my own mental health as well, and being able to focus on something colorful and uplifting has been really helpful for me this past year, too. And so, what I love about this and Ashley's work is it met me. It met me this week. It met you this week. Something in her has been working to create this, has been working to see something come to life that didn't exist before. Something that, again, she's weaving together through her own process of seeking peace, of seeking um, calmness, of seeking just a place of home within herself, of that belonging that we all crave for. And I think, again, what I want to bring us back into is that our work does ripple out into the world. It does dance with those that it meets. It activates things in us. It was created in an intention. So even going back to that frequency, I was noting just how often two places you feel differently in different places, and how even in synagogues or temples, yes, they might be quiet, but you can feel an energy of so much intention in that space from people who have not only been in the room with you then, but who have maybe been there for a couple hundreds of years, depending on how long buildings or those structures have existed. And you're feeling what I've called reverence, because for me, I think it's holding so much. And we are holding so much. So, my encouragement to you as you head into your weekend is to watch where your attention goes and energy flows. And remember, again, that if you want to see more love, healing, possibility in the world, it starts right here with us, with the instigation, the time and space that we take with ourselves, and immersing, surrounding, being in possibility, the frequency of possibility, of awe, of wonder. And if you're not feeling that way, how can we change the radio we're tuning into? Where can we create more of that? Where could we maybe turn off the screen and instead just sit outside? Where could we actually stop reading a post and face someone we love, someone we care about, maybe even someone we disagree, but instead of going through pixels, we come through presence? What would that look like? How would that instigate something different? And again, what we cultivate here is so important because we are part of this greater whole. And keeping yourself, regulating yourself, rocking yourself, being with you, really, really taking care of you is good for us all. It's good for us all. And we've talked about that before. A nourished woman is a powerful woman. You are here with great intention, with great love. with so many things the world needs. May you believe it. And again, I want to end with that quote: a better world isn't naive, it's overdue. I'll see you next week.